Hey everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is Dave on Tech and today we'll be taking a look at the last iPod Nano that Apple has ever released, the iPod Nano 7 from 2012, and see if it's still usable nowadays in 2025. By the way, I've noticed that only 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed to the channel, so if you're enjoying the videos, I would highly appreciate it if you guys take a second to subscribe. It's completely free and it helps out enormously since I'm just starting out and I'm at like 100 subs. So yeah, thank you so much. So back to the iPod, you can see from the start that this thing is tiny. It's barely thick enough to accommodate the headphone jack and the lightning port. So yeah, it's very thin. Speaking of which, this is actually the only iPod Nano to ever come with a lightning port and not the 30-pin dock connector like all the previous Nanos. I have a bunch here. And as you can see, these were using the 30-pin dock connector, and this finally uses lightning. Taking a closer look at the iPod Nano, you can see that on the side we have the volume buttons. We have volume up, volume down, of course, but we also have an extra button in between them. Now, this is actually a play pause button, something that you won't find on an iPhone or iPod Touch, for example. On the top, we have the power button or sleep wake button. On this side, we don't have anything. And on this side, as we just spoke about, we have the lightning port and the headphone jack. Oh, and do you see this white plastic cutout? This is actually a pass-through for the antennas. But what antennas? It didn't have Wi-Fi and it didn't have cellular, but it had Bluetooth. And yes, this was the only Nano to ever ship with Bluetooth. But we'll get to that later. Oh, and fun fact, this was Apple's thinnest product from 2012 up until 2024 when it got replaced by the iPad Pro M4 as Apple's thinnest product. But I'll add some B-roll shots so you guys can have a closer look at the thickness between these two devices. The iPod Nano had a thickness of 5.4 millimeters, while the iPad Pro has a thickness of 5.1 millimeters. It's barely noticeable, but yeah, it's there. Oh, and by the way, this thing is so tiny. Just look at it in my hands. It's super small, but let me just give you some scale. This is an iPhone 13 mini. This is an iPhone, what's this? An iPhone 12. And this is an iPhone, what's this? 15 Pro Max. And this is the iPod Nano 7. So yeah, it's super small. It's as tall as an iPhone 16 Pro Max is wide. So yeah. But that's enough talk about hardware. Let's move to software and see what this thing can do in 2025. So you can just wake it up by pressing the power button or the home button, and it will take you directly to the music app, which, I mean, is normal because this is an iPod after all. So but just press home and you'll be home. Another fun fact about this iPod is that it has no lock screen, but there is a secret lock screen that you could enable by going to the settings, general, date and time, and turning on this feature, which is called time on wake. Whoops. Yeah, time on wake. And now when we shut down the iPod, or well, put it to sleep, when we turn it on, we'll have a clock, and this acts just like a lock screen. You could swipe to unlock and you're back to your music or back on your home screen. So yeah, well, let me just turn this off for now. Oh, and by the way, do you notice how swiping left takes me back one page, just like on iOS? And of course, pressing the home button takes you directly to the home screen, just like you'd expect on an iPhone or iPad. You can even long press an icon to go into shake mode, and this is used to rearrange your apps. Again, just like on iPhone or iPad. Let's drop that right here. So does it run iOS? Well, even though this looks very, very similar to iOS, it actually doesn't run iOS. It ran the same OS as all iPod Classics and Nanos, which is called Pixel OS. Although Apple never officially announced what OS these iPods were running, it was of course highly modified visually with elements and scripts taken directly from iOS 4 or 5 if memory serves. But yeah, it looked a lot like iOS, it felt like iOS, but it wasn't iOS. But back to the home screen, the first step is of course music. And now you had all of your options here, like playlists, artists, songs, albums, whatever. You could also see whatever was playing. You could play and pause, or use the side buttons to play and pause, volume up and down. And yeah, it's your usual music app, nothing interesting here. But how would you get your music onto this device? Well, you had to sync using iTunes or the Apple Music on Windows or Mac. So unfortunately, this means that no, there is no Spotify or Apple Music on this iPod. And you can't stream music from these platforms because of course there's no Wi-Fi or cellular connectivity. So once you have the music synced to the iPod, there are actually two ways of listening to your music. You can of course use wired headphones, or what's cool about this iPod is that because it has Bluetooth, you can simply connect your AirPods. So let's just turn it on, put my AirPods into pairing mode, and there they are, AirPods 2. And they are connected. So I can go back to the music app, songs, and I don't know, play this song, and you'll see this Bluetooth button appearing where you can select the output. And as you can see, it works perfectly. But what about the sound quality of this iPod? Well, unfortunately, Apple started using lower quality components during this period. So for example, a lower quality DAC and amp. So this iPod Nano doesn't sound as good as the previous Nanos, especially the first Nano, which used a Wolfson DAC, which sounded so much better than all other iPods. But yeah, it's still fine. Going back to the menu, we also have a fitness app. Now this is an app made in collaboration with Nike Plus, and you could use this app to track your walks or runs. And you actually had two ways of using this app. You could either use your iPod's built-in accelerometer to track your walking or running workouts, and honestly that was quite accurate. Not to the level of a modern Apple Watch, but it was quite good. Or the other way was to connect a Nike Plus iPod sensor that would go inside the sole of your shoe and measure your steps that way. But honestly, just using the built-in sensor of the iPod was perfectly fine and accurate enough. Moving on, we have the Photos app. Now, in order to view photos on this iPod, you actually had to upload photos through iTunes. Now, this is quite a cute app, and here are a few test photos, but honestly, who would view their photos on a 2.5-inch screen? I mean, it's fine. You see that you have pinch to zoom. It's, I guess it's fine, but useless. You could also sync your podcasts and listen to them on the iPod, and yep, you also had FM radio. Now, in order to use this, you had to plug in some headphones, because the wire of the headphones would actually act as the antenna for FM radio. So, look. Once connected, it works completely fine. Interesting. Oh, and by the way, this was actually one of the very few devices from Apple that actually had radio. So, yeah. On the next page, we have the clock lock screen thing, and we have settings. Now, the settings app is quite basic. You have Bluetooth, you have general, where you could see your information about where you could see information about the iPod. You could adjust the brightness, you could set a wallpaper, you had like 5 to choose from. You could set the date and time, and yeah, that's about it. In the music subsection, you could change the EQ or add a volume limit. You also had shake to shuffle, which was a gimmick, I would say, but yeah. And in the radio submenu, you actually had an interesting feature. This was called live pause. With this enabled, the iPod would actually record a few minutes of radio even after you've paused it. So when you come back and hit resume, it would actually pick up from where you left off instead of playing live radio. So that's an interesting feature. Oh, and we also have videos. You could also sync movies and videos from iTunes to the iPod, but honestly, watching a movie on a 2.5-inch screen is quite unpractical, I would say. I mean, it was probably okay back in 2012 if this was the only device that you owned, but nowadays, nobody's gonna use this iPod to watch a movie. At least I don't think so. Now, of course, you couldn't install any apps on the iPod, but there was a way to unlock a secret app. Ooh, and what was that? Well, if you plug in a pair of wired headphones that have a line microphone, a new app would suddenly appear. So watch this. Bam, voice memos. And what could you use this app for? Well, you could use it to record voice memos. Have I bored you to death yet? So the iPod Nano 7, the last Nano that Apple ever made, and one of the last iPods that Apple ever made. After this Nano was released, we only had the 6th and 7th generation iPod Touches, and that was it, the end of an era. But is it worth buying in 2025? Yes, it gets a huge thumbs up from me because of 2 reasons. One, it had a lightning port, which yeah, I know that we've moved to USB-C now, but it's still quite a newish connector and most people have a lightning cable around the house. So this is much more convenient than using the old school 30 pin cable to charge your device. And number 2, it had Bluetooth. This was actually the only iPod Nano that had it, and you can pair your AirPods or earbuds and it works fine. Except for the AirPods Pro 2. Those actually don't work for some reason. But the AirPods 2, the AirPods 3, and even the AirPods Max can pair and work just fine. So if you want a premium dedicated music player in 2025, or if you just want to feel some nostalgia, grab this. You can find them on eBay for decent prices, but make sure to ask the seller if the battery still holds a charge, because changing the battery in the Nano is extremely difficult. Much harder than on an iPhone, for example. When new, Apple quoted 30 hours of music playback on a charge, but if you get at least 10 in 2025 from an original battery, that's completely fine. So, what do you think about the iPod Nano 7? Let me know in the comments down below, and of course, I'll see you in the next one.